Could BRICS be on the verge of establishing a grain market monopoly? With BRICS nations already dominating global grain production, this powerful coalition is strategically positioning itself to reshape the global food trade. The addition of nations like Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE into the BRICS Plus framework further strengthens this dominance. Collectively, these countries are now responsible for producing 44% of the world's grain, making their influence in global trade undeniable. But what could this mean for global food security and market dynamics? Let's find out. In 2024, BRICS officially launched the BRICS Grain Exchange, marking a monumental shift in the global agricultural trade landscape. The goal of this exchange is clear: to create a platform where BRICS countries can trade grain in their currencies, bypassing the traditional reliance on the US dollar and Western-dominated financial systems like SWIFT. This move is being hailed as a way to boost the economic independence of BRICS nations and create a more stable and sovereign trading environment within the group. Russia's Deputy Agriculture Minister Maxim Titov has called the grain exchange a landmark project that will help stabilize grain prices and provide a strategic countermeasure against sanctions, particularly for Russia. The exchange aims to reduce reliance on financial systems that have historically been controlled by the West. By allowing BRICS nations to use their currencies, like the ruble, yuan, or riel, the platform not only provides an alternative to the dollar-based trade system, but also seeks to provide more transparency in price setting. This could give BRICS countries more leverage over the global grain market, allowing them to better coordinate production and adjust prices based on collective needs, rather than relying on market fluctuations driven by external forces. While the BRICS Grain Exchange holds promise for increasing the economic autonomy of BRICS members, it also raises significant concerns about whether this new system will ultimately lead to market manipulation and the creation of a monopoly over global grain prices. The fear among many analysts is that BRICS could turn into the OPEC of grain, coordinating production levels to control global prices, just as OPEC has done with oil for decades. This concern is especially pertinent given the massive share that BRICS countries hold in global grain production. Collectively, BRICS Plus nations, which now include members like Egypt, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, produce 1.24 billion tons of grain annually, accounting for 44% of global production. This massive output means that BRICS has already established significant dominance in the global grain market. Russia has become the world's largest wheat exporter, shipping 49 million tons in 2022 to 2023. Brazil remains the dominant player in soybean and corn exports, while China is increasingly turning to BRICS partners like Brazil for wheat, demonstrating BRICS' growing influence over global trade in essential food products. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. What makes this dominance even more worrying is the potential for BRICS to use their collective power to manipulate prices, much like OPEC does with oil. In the past, OPEC countries have coordinated their oil output to control prices and protect their interests, and BRICS could do the same with grain. With informal agreements already in place, such as Russia's decision to maintain a price floor of $250 per ton for wheat, the possibility of coordinated price manipulation by BRICS nations is becoming a very real concern. But that's not it. As if the rise of BRICS production and trade dominance wasn't enough, the digitalization of agricultural trade is adding another layer of complexity to the market. Increasingly, major agribusinesses are relying on digital platforms to facilitate grain exports, and this digital shift is raising concerns about market concentration. Contes, a platform used by large companies like Archer Daniels Midland ADM, controls a significant share of global grain exports. The level of concentration allows a few large players to dominate the global grain trade, raising serious questions about the fairness of the market and the level of competition. The BRICS Grain Exchange aims to decentralize this power by establishing its digital platforms, free from Western influence. This could make the market more competitive by enabling smaller countries and businesses to participate more effectively in the global grain trade. But this also opens up the question: could this digital infrastructure create a new form of monopolistic control under BRICS? BRICS countries are also keen to establish alternative payment systems, further bypassing Western financial infrastructure. As these countries work to strengthen their digital infrastructure and trading platforms, the concentration of power in the hands of a few corporations could potentially increase. reinforcing the dominance of the largest BRICS nations and exacerbating the risks of monopolistic control over global food markets. As BRICS continues to assert its influence over global grain trade, Western nations, particularly the US, will almost certainly push back. For years, the US has maintained a dominant position in agricultural exports, but this is changing as trade deficits in agriculture have become more pronounced. Since 2019, the US has had trade deficits in agriculture for 4 out of 6 years, highlighting its declining dominance in this sector. In response to BRICS' growing power, Western nations may resort to tariffs and protectionist measures to shield their agricultural exports. The European Union has already imposed tariffs on Russian and Belarusian wheat imports, and similar measures could likely be taken against BRICS nations as they continue to bypass the US dollar and gain ground in the grain market. The rise of BRICS also directly challenges the US dollar's supremacy in international trade. By using their currencies, BRICS nations are taking steps to de-dollarize global trade, further undermining the dominance of Western financial institutions. This trend is already evident in China's recent decision to cancel massive wheat orders from the US and Australia, instead turning to Brazil for its grain needs. This shift signifies a broader geopolitical shift, with BRICS increasingly dictating trade patterns outside the Western-dominated framework. Looking ahead, the future of global grain trade seems set for a dramatic transformation. BRICS' growing dominance in both production and trade platforms, coupled with its efforts to decentralize power from Western institutions, suggests that the global grain market could experience substantial shifts. If BRICS successfully coordinates its agricultural policies, it could effectively take control of global grain prices, manipulating the market to benefit the bloc's interests. With 44% of global grain production already under its control, BRICS is in a prime position to dictate the supply and pricing of grains. This concentration of power could lead to a situation where smaller countries and emerging markets struggle to compete, unable to afford the high prices set by the BRICS nations. In such a scenario, smaller economies would be forced to contend with food insecurity as prices rise beyond their reach, exacerbating global inequality. The ripple effect could be felt in food shortages and volatility across non-BRICS nations, particularly those that are heavily dependent on grain imports. This would usher in a new era of market control, with BRICS nations at the helm, and leave other nations fighting for scraps. However, the rise of BRICS in the global grain market doesn't necessarily have to result in monopolistic control. An alternative outcome could be a more balanced global economy. By decentralizing control over grain trade, BRICS has the potential to break the monopolistic practices of Western agribusiness giants. For decades, global grain markets have been dominated by a handful of large corporations, such as Cargill, ADM, and Bunge, whose control over the supply chain has concentrated power in the hands of a few. By fostering competition, BRICS could level the playing field, allowing emerging economies to have a stronger voice in the agricultural sector. This could encourage innovation, reduce the market share of multinational corporations, and ultimately create a system where trade benefits a broader spectrum of nations, especially the developing ones. Yet, as BRICS's power grows, it could also lead to increasing geopolitical tensions and the potential for trade wars. Western nations, particularly the US, may view the rise of BRICS as a threat to their dominance in global trade and financial systems. Historically, the West has held significant sway over agricultural markets, but as BRICS moves to bypass Western-dominated platforms and financial systems, such as SWIFT, retaliation is inevitable. The European Union has already begun imposing tariffs on Russian wheat, and as BRICS members expand their control over grain, more protectionist measures will likely be implemented to shield Western markets from the growing influence of the BRICS bloc. This could trigger a trade war, where both sides impose tariffs, quotas, and other trade restrictions. Such a scenario would disrupt the global supply chain, driving up prices for consumers and exacerbating food insecurity. Moreover, with climate volatility already impacting agricultural production, the added pressure of trade restrictions could result in even more instability. As BRICS nations continue to expand their influence in the global grain market, it's clear that the stakes are high. The growing consolidation of power within BRICS has the potential to reshape the entire global food system. But how it unfolds will depend on how the bloc navigates the numerous challenges ahead. Will they succeed in creating a fairer, more competitive system that benefits all countries? Or will they cement their position as the new monopolistic overlords of global food trade? The coming years will be crucial in determining whether this shift leads to a more equitable global food system or sets the stage for a new era of control, with a few countries calling the shots for the rest of the world. How BRICS handles these complex dynamics will have a lasting impact on global food security, trade relations, and geopolitics for decades to come. As the global food system continues to evolve, BRICS will either be a driving force for change or a catalyst for disruption, reshaping how food is produced, distributed, and priced around the world. Do you think BRICS will make the world multipolar, or will they try to have all control? Let us know in the comments section. Is it possible to ignore BRICS now? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.